across Europe. Next slide, please. The full title, the full actually scope of what we are going to talk about here for maximum 1.5 hours today is how communities can envision their desirable energy future. And we will show you what different techniques we actually used. Next slide, please. The agenda of today's webinar will be that I will hand over first to my colleague Christoph, who will somehow frame the clean energy topic, then to our colleague Mel, and then who will be actually introducing the project from the research kind of point of view. And then we will have the dive into presentations of our 3 local partners. That's this time it's from Poland, Spain, and United Kingdom. And after that, we will have the Q&A session. Next slide, please. So this project, just a short summary for those who are outsiders, because we sort of promote this webinar and encouraged to be participated also by people that are not involved in the project, preferably not the usual suspects. And I'm glad to see actually many participants so far. So the Shared Green Deal project, the goal is to look and initiate, stimulate the ways how to implement the Green Deal initiatives across Europe. And it is by using social sciences and humanities tool. And it is on the local and regional level where we actually experiment. The whole project, thank you for the next slide, is really involved over 20 partners. Next one, please. So as I said, it's over 20 partners. It's a five-year EU-funded project. It includes social sciences and humanities research. It is using innovative techniques, as you will hear. It's on the whole, there are 6 streams. We are today here because of the energy, but there is also a stream for circular economy, renovations, mobility, food, and biodiversity. We really in this consortium, and we work, it's led by university, but we work with NGOs, organizations, who are really somehow in whatever scope involved in implementation on climate change policies. The plan is to publish results from these experiments in autumn. Next slide, please. And I would now actually hand over to my colleague Christoph to sum up the clean energy topic.
Thank you, Jana. Very warm welcome from my side as well. My name is Christoph Jost. I also work for CE Bankwatch Network. So we are the practice lead within the clean energy stream of Shared Green Deal. And as Jana said, yeah, this webinar is about showing a bit what we've been doing within the clean energy stream of this project. So just a bit of a reminder on what are the challenges. Supplying clean and affordable secure energy, it's an incredible challenge that we are facing within the Green Deal. So the production and the use of energy accounted for more than 75% of the EU's greenhouse gas emissions in 2021. So decarbonizing the energy system is it's critical to reach the EU 2030 climate objective and also to achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. So obviously, clean energy is a key part of the European Green Deal. There has been many policy initiatives and legislation related to clean energy. Recently, the recast of the Renewable Energy Directive and the Energy Efficiency Directive were adopted. So we now have to move into the implementation, and this is an extremely big challenge, because this is not only about switching from fossil fuels to renewable, but making sure that the transition can happen smoothly and in cooperation with stakeholders on the ground. And transition often is facing resistance from the ground for very good reasons. So this is why we believe that successful transition to renewables cannot be achieved with this top-down approach, and it must gain support at all levels of society to make the transition just. So in general, projects are much more likely to succeed when communities feel that the project is theirs or when it includes them. And this is why within our project, we have these experiments, which is about engaging with the public. It's something really vital to translate European or national policies into national impact. So in our project, this is not about initiatives like from the project level, but we are thinking about broader strategic levels, how to engage with the public. So this is why the social experiment is about producing co-created visions of desirable futures in several regions where renewable energy projects will be implemented. And before introducing and giving the floor to our partners who are implementing these experiments, I would like to pass the floor to Melrose, who's a researcher and can introduce a bit more which tool we are using to make sure that these social experiments are happening. Over to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Christophe. Okay, so I'm going to say a few words about community visioning. Sorry, clearing my throat. But first, I wanted to give you just a little bit more context. Obviously, we've mentioned this word of experiment, and I really wanted to say that that's been key to the whole Shared Green Deal project. And again, Jana mentioned that the whole project has been working on 6 different themes. And what I wanted to draw your attention to is that if you're not familiar with the project, then each of the themes have been working with different methods. And for energy, as Christophe have said, we kind of landed on community visioning. But to explain a bit about the process, I suppose, there was this is set up as a research project, so there was a lot of work from a research team point of view to kind of come up with the different methods that each of the themes was going to be using, and through a kind of process, we landed with community visioning for energy, and really what our partners are going to talk about is how they made that their own. So I've got a couple of slides about community visioning, about what we thought it might achieve, that was very much informed by kind of concepts and theory, but really what was key is this aspect of experiment and seeing how the kind of theories and concepts might actually work out when they were implemented in different locations. And as you'll see, we've got 3 very different interpretations of community visioning, which leads me to my first point, that we've proposed this working definition of community visioning as inclusive, collaborative process that enables a group of people to come together to imagine the future of their community. But we completely acknowledge that there are lots of different ways of doing community visioning and lots of different approaches, but this is very much our working, kind of definition. And again, when we talked about community, for us, this was communities of place. So it was about location and how the visioning might be implemented in place, but really we very much recognize that there are lots of different types of communities, and even that within the community of place, there will be, you know, different communities. And again, that is very much shown, you know, in how the experiments worked out. And I'm sure we'll touch on it in a minute. Could I have a next slide, please? And I guess our primary aim was to reveal and foster community capacity for planning their own energy futures. Again, I've given you a bit of a flavour of what we aimed for before any of the implementation of all of this. So the local partners are going to talk about, you know, to what extent that was realized and the kind of challenges and opportunities that have come through when trying to, you know, developing and delivering those visions and local recommendations for the future of energy. And really at the heart of community visioning are people. And I suppose, you know, again, building on what Christoph said, this idea that communities must be seen as the active shapers of their own environment and future. And that was, you know, a lot of a motivation for going with community visioning and thinking about the future, recognizing that thinking about the future is not always easy. Again, something that we can touch on later. But really, that's all I wanted to say. I could talk, you know, a lot about community visioning. I hope that's a little whistle-stop tour that tells you, you know, kind of where we came from. And now we're going to hand over to our partners to see how that actually worked out, you know, in practice. There's just one thing that I want to flag up. Feel free to post questions whilst people are presenting, but if you could please use the Q&A box as opposed to the chat so that we can keep track of a question, that would be so helpful for us for the moderation and also for the conversation at the end. So yeah, please use the Q&A and not the chat for questions. And yes, over to Mateusz.
Thank you, Mel. Good morning, everyone. This is Mateusz Kowalik. I work as a project leader for a Polish Green Network, which is a non-governmental organization that deals with projects related to energy, European funds, climate, and just transition of coal regions. One of the regions of our interest and what has become the interest of Shared Green Deal is the town of Bełchatów. Let's move to the next slides and you'll see where Bełchatów on the map of Poland is located. This is a town of 60,000 people, and this is where we decided to conduct our Women's Stories, Future Visions of Bełchatów cycle of meetings within Shared Green Deal. But before we move to the future, let's start with the presence. Well, there is a certain inequality existing in the town, a social inequality, and it refers to labor market. There is a high level of unemployment among women. There is a low level of participation of women in the labor market. Also, there are less opportunities for satisfying jobs for women, and on top of that, often a traditional family model in the region and in the town prevails. What are the reasons behind that, you might wonder? Let's move to the next slide and you'll find the primary reason behind that. Well, next to the town, there is an enormous lignite open cast mine located along with electricity plants that provides 20% of entire power supply in Poland, which makes it a heart of energy in Poland. And both businesses employ 88% of men, and these jobs are very well-paid jobs. And now, when it comes to the future of this region and of those two businesses that you see in the picture is that a coal phase out will happen mainly due to European and Polish climate policies, which will trigger a need of transition into clean energy, as well as a need of social and economic transition. All in all of those reasons made us to invite women inhabitants of Bełchatów to conduct, to participate in workshops of community future visions. Let's move to the next slide. And this is a short summary of what we have done. We conducted 3 workshops, a final meeting, and what is the most important, we applied experimental methods to conducting workshops. Let's move to the next slide. And we invited a storyteller to conduct a storytelling workshop for the participants to produce their visions of Bełchatów in the future. The storyteller invited participants to, at the very beginning as an icebreaker, to draw their emotion. He invited them to describe their regular day in the presence. After that, he introduced them with the rules of imagined world creations, and this all led to the final point, which was describing their day, their regular day in 2040, which was the future visions of Bełchatów. Let's move to the next slide, and here you will see a comedian and an actor and improvised theater instructor, which led us to the second workshop, where the comedian and the actor led a workshop based on improvised theater techniques. At this very workshop, initially, rules of improvisation were introduced to the participants. Then a set of often funny games were introduced as an icebreaker and also as an accommodation into the improvised theater techniques, so that it all led to creating visions of future of the town in a number of creative scenes. Both methods, at the very end, both methods were applauded by the participants. They called both methods as something new for them. They were mentioning that since the very beginning, the creative methods made them feel comfortable with the other participants, and it all served as a very strong icebreaker. So since the very beginning, all the participants could be open with how they see the presence and how they see the future. It all triggered creativity in an engaging manner. Let's move to the next slides, and I'll provide you with a short list of key takeaways. So first of all, there was a huge appetite for conversation among the participants, and they were very keen on sharing what their future visions are, but predominantly what their current problems are. Secondly, it turned out that actually there is quite a significant disinterest in energy transition. It appeared that both the open cast mine and electricity plant are seen more as a job provider, and they are often discussed as social phenomenon, and there was a significant focus on social aspects, but not that much about the clean energy perspective in the future or its influence into the on the atmosphere and into the climate change contribution in general. Both the electricity plant and open cast mine are called in the region Mother the Feeder. However, during the workshop, both were dubbed as Mother the Poisoner, which shows its influence on not only on the atmosphere and a major contributor into the climate change, but also into the inequalities that prevail in the region, the ones that I mentioned at the very beginning, but also another level of inequalities which sort of divides the local community into two groups. One group is that of the employees of both businesses and their families, which locates them much higher due to higher wages. I mean, it locates them much higher when it comes to opportunities and what they can afford than the families where people work elsewhere. Since the coal phase out is inevitable in the region, and there are less and less jobs provided by the electricity plant, open cast mine, and the businesses around, it appears less and less appealing for the youth to connect their future with the region, so that it triggers the population. More and more people are living, and it appears to be quite a challenge for the future. And it covered a lot of visions. The coal phase out also touches the identity. Now, as the main energy provider, it is a reason of sometimes of feeling as an important place on the map of Poland. However, when this is closed, who are we going to be if we're not that much important anymore? Eventually, and this is the very last point in this presentation, there is a widespread feeling that when it comes to decision making, it all happens somewhere else, which on one hand is understood, since due to its importance for the energy system in Poland, it is governed mainly by the government. However, this feeling of decision making being located somewhere else also triggers sort of passive approach into a number of initiatives at local community level. Thank you very much for this very part.
Many thanks, Mateusz. I will actually just sort of remind, the second slide show the agenda. When I said that we will dive into 3 local experiments. The first presentation we just heard, what was very unique about it was that they really focused only on participation of women. And that's sort of what my colleague Mel mentioned. It is a social experiment. We are sort of trying different sort of innovative techniques. And this is what was very unique about the experiment in Poland. The second local partner that will present is from Granada. So that will show a completely different perspective because it's focused on or it's the view from the municipality point of view. And the third one actually we will have, it's from the UK, from the region of Essex. So it will be the view from the region perspective. So I would like to hand over to our colleague Gonzalo.
Hello, everybody. Do you hear me okay? Yes. Thank you very much, Jana, for your presentation. Nice to see you all. I'm going to be as fast as possible to complete my minutes. As Jana already said, I am Gonzalo Esteban López from Diputación de Granada in the southeast of Spain. We are a provincial government supporting municipalities. Next slide, please. And in our area, we have lots of other problems, but if we speak about the clean energy issue related to the EU policies, we have in the metropolitan area of Granada, we are surrounded by mountains, so our orography doesn't let the pollution, the air pollution, go out of our region. And even if Granada is only 250,000 inhabitants, so not as Madrid or Barcelona, in fact is the third Spanish region with worst air pollution in the whole country. And this is because of the pollutants that we produce in some other fields, but mainly in mobility and in heating. So all related to energy. And as well, as we all know, we have this climatic crisis with lots of effects. And if we see the adaptation risks all throughout Europe, we will see that in the southeast of Spain, we have many more impacts than in other regions, because we are more in the south, and in the situation of Spain, we are in the east, so we are going to get less rains and more heat. And this is delivering already some of the effects of climate change, and we are worried about this. And next slide, please. Within Sarek Green Deal project, we were happy to participate with our pilot. We promoted 12 different events in 11 different municipalities. We went both to the metropolitan area and to the rural areas I already commented. And we achieved to involve over 200 people in all those events. Some were very small with 4 people. And others we achieved to engage 40 people. This is because in the rural area events, it was not easy to engage people in so not so easy to follow terminology. I agree with Mateus, what he said about the terminology and the information that you have to deliver to the people. We saw that we need to ease the kind of words that we use, and maybe use other kind of attracting events to engage people, and then lots of them get interested about the clean energy and the possible solutions and what is of benefit for themselves or their institutions. We learned through the process of the project and through other local events that we already did. But in generally speaking, we achieved to get lots of people of different kinds, and it was really interesting what we learned from all of them. You can see the numbers we got of this of the physically people we got. Most of the people were citizens, some of the companies, and quite some of the public workers, and we achieved a good balance between male and female gender equality. Next slide, please. Here you can see some of the photos of the events. Some were in big halls with more people, some were just in a table. And you can see this one in the down part on the left. We have a paella. And we used part of the resources of the project to promote more social events that can attract better people in these rural areas that I was telling you. And through this more nice event for the people, we attracted in this event specifically, we achieved to attract lots of women of the municipality. They started to chat around the table with this paella about energy issues, and it was nice that we saw different points of view of themselves. For example, they were worried about the energy bills in their houses. In rural areas, they are the people that are in charge of the daily expenditures, and they were as well aware about climate crisis and worried if they could do something, and they saw some possible solutions as energy communities, which has been our main focus in all these workshops. And it was interesting to engage them through these more nicer events for themselves, more social, and then try to go to the more technical and difficult things to speak. Next slide, please. We learned lots of things in our events. Lots of people were worried about, they were already wanting to do something about renewables, but the urban protection or natural touristic protection figures didn't let them in those areas to install renewable energies. And they were looking for possible solutions of new technologies to be integrated, or these energy communities that can install renewable energy facilities outside of the protected areas and then deliver the green energy to themselves. Lots of people were worried about the legal aspects. There is a lot of uncertainty as the legal regulation at the Spanish level is not still well defined in some kind of energy projects. And that's why most of the people were thinking about individual or shared PV autoconsumption, because this one is quite well regulated in our country, and the numbers are quite okay, the economical numbers. As well, lots of people were wanting to be utility independent. There is a lot of angry against big energy utilities, and mainly in rural areas. And they just, one of their main reasons to think about energy is not only environment or climate change, that lots of people as well were worried as well. But one of the things was this be utility independent or less dependent. As well, lots of people knew neighborhoods in their municipalities with problems, economical problems, and the energy poverty issue was as well important for them. Next slide, please. Lots of people gets confused with the information that companies deliver to them and to the municipalities, because lots of them use weird terminology or invented terminology, not the same as the one in the legislation. They tell things that are not true or not so well said as it should be promoted. And there is lots of people that has lots and lots and lots of questions of things that some company or some neighbor told them, and they are not sure about this. So it was nice through these workshops to be able to answer to all these questions that arise within the workshop, but as well to continue with our work. We are going to accompany them through the next 2 years to promote energy solutions through a new project that I'm going to tell you later on. There's a lot of confusion as well with autoconsumption and energy community, I already said, and this social reach, the energy poverty thing was really important to involve lots of our municipalities. They saw the possible solutions as something not easy to deliver, solutions that involve municipalities and citizens in the same project. There's a lot of legal things to solve. But if we speak to them about the social reach and the energy poverty things, more municipalities were interested in going on board of these possible projects. Next slide, please. Another thing that worried a lot of the people that thought about future energy, clean energy solutions, or in our case, energy communities, they were worried about the stability of the project, who is going to pay in the next 5 years, who is going to be in charge, all these kind of things. And we had lots of conversations about this and how to solve it and how to implement it. The doubts that I already told before: security, feasibility, finance in the long term, future management is something similar to this stability issue that I was telling you. Still, we are working on some possible solutions, but no one knows. So we are, these workshops were nice, that citizens gave us and companies gave us some information. We gave them some other information, and we are searching all together for some possible solutions. Next slide, please. Another thing that we promoted through all our workshops, as we are supporting government for municipalities, was the direct involvement of municipalities, not only in their own facilities, but to promote action through their citizenship and the local companies. And we were speaking with all the public workers that attended our workshops, the possibility of supporting and facilitating these energy communities and any other energy project that involves citizens and local companies. And we were speaking with everybody in those workshops, and it was really important for the people that the municipality, if they get involved in one of these projects, they give lots of security for the people. They don't trust some of the other neighbors that they don't know, but if their local municipality, speaking mainly in rural areas, they know the mayor, they know the people that is working in the municipality, and they trust the municipality because it has some rules. So it was really important. And I put you some of the other things that arised in the workshops that we were speaking about possible working lines of the municipalities. After all these workshops, we already applied for a funding call at national level in Spain. And when we started working on Sarek Green Deal project, we already were thinking about next step. So we achieved to get this funding, and we just implemented in February a new service that we are delivering. It's called OTC Eco Granada. You can see the website there. It's in Spanish. But within this new service, we have contracted 2 people for the coming 2 years only to work on what we have worked in Sarek Green Deal project to promote energy communities in our territory. And we are going, as I told you, not only to do workshops and inform them in just this specific moment, but to support them throughout the process during the next 2 years. I think this is the last slide. I don't know if one, yeah. So I try to be fast. Thank you very much. This is more or less what I wanted to tell you.
Many, many thanks, Gonzalo. And third time a charm, I give the floor to Louise, who will present her experiences from Jaywick, which is the city we actually visited as the team in the UK in Essex. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Jana, and good morning, everybody. My name is Louise Tennecoon. I am Climate Action Engagement Manager at Essex County Council. And my role is all about building partnerships around climate change across the county of Essex, which is over on the east coast of the UK. I'd like to start by just showing you a short film which we made at our final workshop. This was our multi-stakeholder workshop, where we brought together people from the public sector, the private sector, and from the community of Jaywick to talk about the future of energy. And so if we could just play the film, it'll give you a little bit of a flavour, both of the community, but also of the activities that we did. Thank you.
Energy is fresh on everybody's lips because of the price rises. People are suffering right here, right now. Some of the buildings are not up to scratch. They can't even afford to turn the heating on.
Some of them are living in actually abject poverty, as well as others who are just, managing as well.
One lady quoted there, she's cost her £20 a day. It's a home, you know, we get a phenomenal amount of money.
It's the poorer areas that get overlooked. And many of us come from educational deprived backgrounds. So this gives us a chance to know what's going on.
We brought together 20 people from the community, people from the council, people from the NHS, from community organisations and from companies who work on energy to generate real concrete measures that will make a difference to people's lives now. But I'm also really excited about the longer term ideas that are already bubbling up.
The biggest takeaway for me is actually find out what's available, because I think a lot of the residents here didn't really know about that.
That really struck me, at residents not being able to actually understand things like their meters, but also I think it's about just joining different parts of our system up.
Quite often there's conversations that are happening in isolation. You'll get business, you'll get public sector, you'll get residents. But actually having everybody together being really, really different. And I think that's what has made today so special.
Many times in the past, organisations made a lot of promises that just haven't happened or have failed badly. So it's that need to build trust. It's education. It's as simple as that.
We feel disempowered in society. And knowing that these people were here and listening to my voice made me feel a step closer to being active participants.
We're talking about 2 weeks, 2 years and 10 years. Actually, there's a lot of things which are on that 2 weeks, which really should drive and make things happen and make a real impact right now. There was a chat for media putting in new air source heat pumps. As an energy company, we're responsible to do more. Some people are unaware of eco funding, so I'm here to talk about that and how they can benefit from it.
What's come across is some of the work that's kind of gone ahead of this group. So Clacton Community Transition Group have been doing a bit of the footwork already.
We're looking to create a cooperative for the community of Jaywick that will provide cheap energy, utilising solar, wind and wave power.
It's not just around kind of lighting and heating. It's actually bigger than that. It's about our autonomy. It's about where our future might be.
I had expected to be lectured and I would learn something, but instead it was a participatory event.
And I think as a local authority representative, we don't need to come in and tell people what they need. We need to listen and then work with them.
Benefits of having this kind of conversation with lots of different people in a room are enormous. You never know what's going to come out of these conversations.
Of course, the context will change, but the main idea is really exciting and generates many possibilities, as you can see here today. And that could happen in all the places as well.
I'm really quite optimistic about where this actually could go. As long as we continue the momentum, this will actually go somewhere and it'll be a great thing for Jaywick.
And if they pick up a third of them, I think you'll be doing a fantastic job.
I feel positive about the future and very positive about Jaywick.
Thank you. So hopefully that's given you quite a bit of a flavour, actually, of the community of Jaywick, which you can see here in this picture. If we could move to the next slide, just to give you a little bit of background, a little bit more context. If we could just, sorry, I know it's tricky. There we go. Why did we choose Jaywick Sands? Well, if you speak to just about anybody in the UK, they've heard of Jaywick Sands, even though it is a small community of only 4,000 people clinging to the east coast of Essex. And the reason for its notoriety is that it is the most deprived community in the UK and has been for many years. So it's a community where people really struggle to heat their homes. We know that many, many people are living in fuel poverty and people sometimes just don't turn the heating on, or they have to choose between heating and eating. Obviously, this affects people's health. We've got high rates of joblessness within the community because it is very isolated. It's actually very hard to get in and out of Jaywick. There's very little public transport. A lot of people don't own a car, so it's hard for people to access jobs, which means there's widespread deprivation in this community and a lot of reliance on benefits. Plus, it is a very flat area, and as you can see, it's very close to the coast, so it's extremely vulnerable to climate change. There's a very high flood risk in this area. And ironically, there is a massive wind farm just offshore, but no, and that was meant to be benefits. No benefits come back to the community, and people feel very strongly about that is an injustice, I would say. Next slide, please. So we decided that we would work, first of all, with Essex County Council, the organisation I represent, but also Tendring District Council, the more local council who are very local to the community. And we brought together people from right across those organisations, people with an interest in housing, in economic growth and levelling up, as well as energy and low carbon. We also brought together representatives from the National Health Service and community groups, so all the kind of people who offer support to the community. Then we brought into the conversation the companies who are active on the ground, delivering retrofit and renewables in the area, because there are some, and there is some good work being done. And we wanted to hear from them about some of the challenges and the opportunities that they see. And we also contacted local community champions, and we tried to use their networks to reach out into this community. The community is very, it's known for being very strong, but it's also quite fractured, and there's quite a lot of skepticism around people coming in and trying to wave a magic wand and solve their problems, because they have had a lot of problems for a very long time. So we knew that we were kind of up against it, and we really needed to work very hard to win people's trust in order for them to participate in this process. Next slide, please. So what we did, we had 4 facilitated workshops. The first one was just for local authorities. So that was Essex Council, Tendring Council, but also we brought along to that the NHS, the Health Service and the community groups. Then we had one for the private sector, which was a little more difficult to shape and to scope. So in the end, that became the private sector people, but also the public sector sort of policymakers and officers who they work with. So all the people involved in the system of delivering energy efficiency, and in particular government grant funding for energy efficiency in this community. And then we brought together residents from the community in a very open way. And picking up on Mateus and Gonzalo's comments earlier, that the language of the project was quite challenging for a lot of people, and we really felt the need to meet people where they were. So our first workshop wasn't about the future of energy, it was about how do you keep warm in winter, because that was the pressing concern for everyone. That was how energy issues presented themselves. How do you keep warm? And then gradually we were able to take them on a conversation which went from there to becoming what's possible if we all work together on energy. And that was the theme for our final workshop, where we managed to bring 50 stakeholders together. We also carried out 11 home energy visits, where we went into people's homes and did very simple, basic DIY type improvements to help improve those homes and keep them warmer. What I should say is the many of the properties in Jaywick are substandard. Jaywick was originally built as a holiday park rather than a permanent residence. So these were a lot of wooden chalets that were intended only to be used in the summertime. They were never intended to be permanent homes. They were never intended to be lived in year round. And so we're starting from a very, very low base. So these home energy visits were partly about helping people keep warm, but they were partly about building trust and saying, look, we're actually here to do something. We're not just here to talk. And of course, we created this film, which we've gone on to share with the community and with other stakeholders. Next slide, please. I think the main takeaways, I mean, so much content, I could talk for hours about this, but the main takeaways were the need to build trust, as I've mentioned, the appetite in the community for information. They really need information and support that they can trust. There's a lot, information out on the website or whatever. That's not enough. People here need face-to-face support so that they know that they can trust the person they're speaking to. There was also a real appetite for community-led action. And I think, to be honest, this was a surprise to me. I expected this community to be very much, we've got a problem and you, the council, need to solve it. But it wasn't like that at all. It was actually like, we're ready, willing and able to help ourselves, but we need your support and better information for us to be able to do that. So everybody wants to work together, and we're continuing to bring people together in collaboration as we take forward the projects that were raised in these workshops. Landlords are really key in this community, because more than 50% of these homes are private rented rather than owned by the people who live in them. And we haven't cracked that one yet, I'll be honest. Getting landlords into this conversation has proven difficult so far. So that's another challenge. And the other the other big thing to come out of this was people want jobs and skills to come out of this. They don't want companies to come in from outside the region, do the work and leave. They want this all to be about building and developing jobs, skills, and the local economy. Thank you. Next slide, please. I think this might be the last one. So the shared vision that they have for their community is more shops. This is a community where there is no supermarket. This is a community where you cannot buy fresh fruit and vegetables. So there is a desperate need for more shops, businesses, jobs, income. And they want Jaywick to become once again a place that people want to visit. You speak to people around Essex and many of them will say, I used to go to Jaywick on holiday. My mum and dad spent every summer in Jaywick. Not so much now. They want better homes. They know that better homes will lead to better health. They want to no longer be the town that has the highest level of deprivation in the UK. And they want to no longer have to choose to heat or eat. So that's a really kind of clear vision. I think that is my final slide. I may be wrong. Yes. I would just say going forwards, we've created, or this process has created, a real energy, a real enthusiasm and an appetite for people to work together. And we're moving forwards already on this. We have recruited 2 members of the local community as community energy champions, and we've managed to find funding that those will be paid roles, which for Jaywick is really, really key. We're setting up a community energy hub, a one-stop shop, so people can come and access the information and support they need. And we also have a small group, as you heard about in the film, who are coming together and they really want to set up a renewable energy project of their own so that they can be generating in the future renewable green energy for the community and supplying that to the community at a lower price. So there's lots of things going on, and I hope I've given you a little bit of a taste of that. Thank you.
Many thanks, Louise. This was our dive into our three, or from the point of view of our 3 local partners. And now I would actually hand over to my colleague Christoph, who is going to facilitate the Q&A session.
Thank you, Jana, and thank you all 3 for it was very interesting, informative presentations. I mean, the experiments are still running for a bit, but it was great to see the first results. And of course, there will be more information to be shared later on with detailed case studies in the autumn, as we mentioned. So yeah, it was great to see first that we have here 3 different, very different cases coming from obviously different countries, but also different contexts, different environment, from rural to urban areas, where you guys discuss different challenges related to energy, but also going beyond this. You mentioned a lot issues related to inequalities, to the social aspects, and energy poverty. The gender aspect also came quite a lot, especially in the Polish case, and there were discussions related to air pollutions and more broadly to how to address the economic development and the job aspects. So this was really, really great to hear about those various challenges that you discussed, and you also use different techniques, and this was really great to see that community visioning is not just one single approach, but it could really be applied differently on the ground. So now this is an interactive workshop, so feel free really to ask a question directly on the chat. I see that there are already a couple of them, including some that have been replied already, but let's just go through them very briefly. There was a question first, quite general, on the understanding of the term of community, and thank you so much, Emily, for having answered this one. Through our experiments, it's true that we tend to understand community as a community of place, so people connected by their location. But through the experiments, each of the partners were able to determine the exact bounds of that community differently. And I think this was quite well seen throughout the different experiences with different kind of attendances through the different workshops. The second question related to the background agreement to the change actor in the energy sector from the state large-scale energy to community visioning of energy supply. And yeah, this is not something really that we have foreseen as a change in dominant actors in the energy sector. Our idea was really to propose that all people impacted by energy are involved in imagining and planning what future energy system could look like. And based on this, the conversation could go in different dimensions. And in many cases, the idea of community energy and energy owned by the citizens came quite a lot, but this is not necessarily our intention when we decided to implement those experiments. So yeah, feel free really to continue commenting on this if needed. I will go on with the more open question. So there is a question from Rosie on the Polish case related to the techniques that were used for the community visioning in Bełchatów. So I don't know, Mateusz, if you could answer this one, whether the storyteller and the other creative contributors have done anything similar this before. And if not, how do you think that they found the experience?
Sure, thank you for that question. Both leaders of the workshops reported that they had never done anything like this before. I mean, what they are familiar with is conducting workshops of respectively storytelling and improvisation, but on a regular commercial basis for people who participate out of their own interest, for fun or for developing their own skills. So it was also an experimental experience for themselves. So beforehand, they were trying to explore who the participants will be, what are the expectations, what the project is actually about, and what will happen next with the outcomes. From the very beginning, they were reported that they were very excited. Firstly, about the perspective, and secondly, about how the workshop went. They were mentioning they actually were not sure what to expect since the participants were not usual participants they are familiar with, but they were reporting that they found it extraordinary how open the participants were, and it wasn't covered in key takeaways as many other aspects due to the limited time of this presentation, but they found it extraordinary how fast the participants were ready to share their personal stories. They were also surprised about a very high level of trust and support that was created, well, not only by themselves as the leaders, but also all across the participants themselves. And there was a lot about not only future visions, but about the presence and the outcomes and the personal stories. They're being mentioned as very important into getting to know what needs to be addressed when it comes to dealing with clean energy future and the social aspects of it in the region.
Thank you, Mateusz. There's also another question from Rosie about how local partners found being involved in this research-informed process. I don't know if any of you has ever done such experiment before, if you've been involved in something similar, but yeah, how did you approach this yourself, and yeah, how did you found being involved in this, and how people reacted in general? I don't know who wants to start.
I think I can be the one.
Sure.
So for me, it was a priceless experience of getting to know the community of Bełchatów, what their problems are, a part of what I had already known from some publications and social diagnosis. As I had mentioned at the very beginning, Behatov is a region where energy transition will happen, and hopefully the region will be a subject of just transition. And this is what me and my organization worked on. So the results of the project provided us with a genuine insight into what's important for the community. When it comes to the cooperation with the local community, well, we had a local partner in there who facilitated a lot of work when it comes to, for example, recruiting participants, and also their voice was priceless for me in order to understand what are the local dynamics of contacts, what is important, for example, when it comes to the timing, and also who might appear, who might not appear, when to organize, for example, to avoid the timings around the elections, as we had parliamentary elections in October and local elections now in April. And I found at the very beginning, I was thinking that the participation rate was quite low, as we attracted a bit less participants that we had initially wanted. But eventually, after a number of talks with the participants, I noticed that they perceive the turnout at the workshop as quite high, which also is an important information about the civic society in the region. It turns out that not that many local non-governmental organizations are present there, and such workshops, especially experimental workshops, is something that happens rarely. And when it comes to talks about clean energy, future around it, and transition of the region, those topics are not something that would attract massive audience locally. It was more a participation of those who had already been somehow attracted to those topics.
Thank you so much. Maybe I can ask the same question here to Gonzalo, if you don't mind. Like, how did you find being involved in this social experiments? What was the challenge, and how did you really, what was your reaction to the overall process?
Well, we have been, in our case, we have been working since the last almost 3 years to promote energy communities in our region. We have been working in the last 20 years about sustainable energy, but now we are focusing in this citizen participation and approach through other EU projects, and as well through this new figure of energy communities. We have collaborated already with other local companies to deliver some workshops with our own local programs. But the people that we are working here in our office, we are, most of us, engineers, physicists, technical people. So we are not used to this social work, and it's really needed. And we are learning all the time. So once we saw the project and the possibility to do the pilot within Sarres Green Deal, we thought it was really nice for us. And through the project, we have gotten some resources to improve the workshops that we were already delivering. But as well, as within the project and the pilot, we need to do a better follow-up of the workshops with all kinds of information. We learned much more than from previous workshops at social level. And when I hear all of my colleagues, I get envy about the social involvement in other aspects that we haven't reached, because we are more our brains thinks more about the technical things and not the social aspect. So as with the previous experience, now with the project, we have learned lots of new things about how to engage people, to not to go straight to these complicated technical things, but to create a better, secured, confident place in which you can speak about your things, and then start speaking about these other problems that we need to speak. More or less, this is my main lesson. There are lots of small things inside of this lesson, but more or less is this.
Great to hear, Gonzalo. Thank you very much. Luis, what about you? Like, what is your experience? When you already mentioned key takeaways, but is there anything that struck you already?
So I've not been involved in a research project like this before, and I will be honest, I was a little bit nervous about it. I was a little bit nervous about going into a community, hosting conversations, raising expectations, and then saying, oh, thanks very much, that's it, the project's over, goodbye. And I was really nervous about that. And I think in a way that has turned out to be a good thing, because it forced me to, because there wasn't any more funding, because it wasn't part of a sort of longer research and then action funded project, for want of a better description, it forced me to think about how can we integrate what comes out of this into existing programs and align it with existing funding. So the things that we're taking forward now are all fully funded, because I'm sort of using little bits of money that are already committed to work quite slowly, particularly if we have to go out and seek are that things can be delivered very quickly. So that's enabling us to be quite responsive. So that's a good thing that came out of that. I think also I really appreciate the flexibility that's been shown by the project team and by the way the project has been framed, which has allowed us to it's just given me the flexibility to, I don't know, to kind of work in a more fluid way, to be responsive to the needs of the community, and I hope to strike the right balance between research and getting things done and making a difference in this community.
That's super. Thanks a lot, Luis, for this as well. So you all mentioned already the concrete takeaways, like in a way the results of this experiment so far. Can you maybe give a bit of example of concrete impacts on the ground that this has this experiment has led to, like any example of something that was triggered thanks to these experiments? I mean, there is a lot of learnings, obviously, and a lot of ideas also to continue engaging with the public on this on the energy transition. But yeah, anything very concrete that will come out shortly.
Is that for me? Was that question for me?
To you, but also the others. So yeah.
I've already said something about that. So do you want me to say some more or not really?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we are having regular monthly meetings now with the residents. So we keep that continuity and that momentum going. One of the things that came out of the meeting was that residents struggle to understand their energy bills. And because they can't understand their energy bills, they feel disempowered around energy. And so they don't feel that they can do things like swap energy providers or take energy efficiency measures in their homes. So next week, we're running a course to teach people how to understand their energy bills. So that's directly in response to the ask from the community. They also asked for information that they could trust. And so we'll be launching the Energy Hub at the beginning of June. And that will be this place where people can go and talk to an advisor about all aspects of energy efficiency, about government grant funding to support energy efficiency, but also about benefits and how to maximize their income so that they can afford their energy. We have these community champions. We have 2 new community champions being trained, and they will start work over the summer. But also we have this group coming together to begin to plant the seeds of long-term community energy. So there's quite a few things going on. We still are under pressure from the community. I've heard rumblings that people say, oh, it's all talk and no action. So we can't afford to take too long to deliver these things. So we're moving forwards as quickly as we can.
Thank you very much, Louise. Yeah, any similar example, from you, Mateusz or Gonzalo, very concretely what's happening next?
Yes. Here in Spain, it has been very nice what the people that participated in the workshops tell us through other channels, and as well we have started the interviews, the in-depth interviews to the people, and most of them tell us that they are happy with the networking that has been created. Lots of them got interested in this topic. They started some action to some of the workshops were aimed to create a new energy community. So these people are already organizing by themselves to create the energy community. But as well, people that came to bigger workshops in which or people from other workshops came all together. They all say that the networking activity has increased a lot. They know, one of the people told me, I really felt happy after the workshop because I felt not alone anymore. Lots of the people thought about these kind of issues, but they didn't found nearby some people with the same interest. And then in their neighborhood, they found some other people that thought similar things, or in their province, they found similar interest in some other people. So this networking activity and all the energy communities that are starting afterwards, I think is the main active after the workshops.
Thank you so much, Gonzalo. Yeah, what about you, Mateusz? Anything concrete happening very shortly?
Yeah, I feel like there's a number of outcomes, and I hope for more. One of them is that one of the participants of our workshops was a lady that works for an institution that manages regional European funds, and having participated in these workshops and also in few others, she realized how important it is to work with the local community, to empower them, to listen to them, to give them some tools, time, and money to discuss among themselves what future they desire. And the result of that is that the next call for projects will include a particular amount of money for this type of projects. Another one is on a personal level. One of the participants of the workshops was a candidate at local elections that were held last Sunday, and she had decided about being a candidate before our workshop started, but thanks to our workshops, she decided to focus her campaign on transition matters. Another thing is that one of the participants was a local plenipotentiary for transition from Bełchatów, and it also, she was mentioning that it also gave her more understanding of what the local community thinks about the transition, what the needs are, but also she was a sort of an advocate of our project. So also she was a sort of a voice of our project at the local community council, and she managed to pass a number of information about what the future visions of Bełchatów are. And finally, two more things. One is networking. So we managed to gather a number of participants who are actually interested in transition, and we were witnessing just new connections being created. And finally, I feel like it was a priceless on the level of empowerment. We also had a local partner in there, and she described that having cooperated with us on organizing 4 meetings on such a topic let her gain new skills and gain new appetite for organizing more projects like this locally.
Thank you very much, Mateusz, also for those insights. I see a question in the chat from Mel. Maybe Mel, you want to ask the question directly to the people?
Yeah, sure. I didn't want to take too much advantage of being able to speak, but I think something that was really quite striking in all the presentations was around how hard you had to work to make people think about the future, and actually how that needed to be stepped back in a lot of cases as well. And so I wondered whether you had drawn any learnings on how people see the future and how they think or struggle to think about their future. This idea of visioning was quite central. So I feel like some of you have touched on it, but yeah, I kind of wanted to invite some more reflections on that.
I'm happy to answer that. My experience in JWIC was that it's quite hard for people to focus on the future when their immediate needs aren't being met. So the fact that people were more concerned about how they were going to feed their families tomorrow or how they were going to keep warm through the winter rather than thinking about the future. What we did at the last workshop was we encouraged people to think about the future in three time points. In 2 weeks' time, in 2 years' time, and in 10 years' time. And people found that quite helpful, I think, because it gave them the opportunity to talk about their immediate needs, but also it kind of built a bridge out to a longer term future. So that helped. But I think it is, yeah, it's a real challenge.
I would heighten what Louise said. It was difficult for the participant to think about the future. They were somehow very often leaning towards what the presence is. I see it because they were struggling to understand what the presence is about, since this is a region in transition, and establishing what the presence is was already helpful into going more into the future. So my conclusion was that firstly, it's important to talk about the presence, where we are, who we are, and once we establish this ground, it is much easier to go into the journey into the future.
In our case, we focused. I totally agree with Rosie and Mateusz about the difficulty to think about the future, generally speaking, but energy future is even more difficult because normal citizens do not know lots of things of the energy sector, and they have lots of doubts and lots of misinformation. So it's not so easy. So it's maybe better to start thinking about the near future things that you can do, and then start to go for the action. And that's another of the reasons why we focused our workshops in energy communities, because we started to think about creating a community at local level to start doing projects, and they first have to understand some few things for the first step, and then they could go to the second step, to the third step, and this way they can start action now for the coming future. We have spoken with lots of the people in the energy communities, and one of the lessons that they told us is that lots of the people, not everybody, but they say something like this: I don't really care about if I have funding or if I'm going to do this kind of project or this other kind of project. I know that I need patience, I need information, I need to do community, and we will reach some results, some good projects in our local region. So these people really understand that they have to start working. They can start implementing some PV or some refurbishment or some other project. Start in this project, concretize everything, and this way they can start thinking in a more close or nearer way about the future, and it's easier.
Thank you, Gonzalo. There's one additional question. I think it's going to be the last one for this session. It's about the current energy mix in your community, and is there any clean energy cooperative currently? Any prospect to bring some into the community? I think some of you have already answered this, but maybe you can go through a last round to clarify this if it wasn't clear. So for Gonzalo, I think there are already energy communities on the making, right?
Yes. In our case, we have some formed and some that are ongoing to be formed. In Spain, because of our legislatory framework, legislation framework, most of the energy communities start with a PV shared autoconsumption project. They search for a place to implement a PV power plant, and then the legislation allows you to deliver this energy to all different community members. Most of the energy communities as well start with energy assessment in their houses or the businesses of the institutions and people that are in the community, and they assess each one of the members so they can implement individual projects by themselves as well. And the next steps are to be able to contract all together with the same company, renewable energy, with better prices, etc. We have some renewable energy cooperatives that already deliver 100% renewable energy in Spain, and I think in most of EU countries. So another step will be to go for electromobility, to go for heating consumption, and to go for this aggregated contracting of energy. We have seen some at Spanish level some calls in which an association of consumers told everybody, if you want to contract energy with me, tell me your data and I will do a call for big energy utilities and see what price and what kind of energy I achieve. I personally participated in one 2 years ago, and I changed my company to one that had better price and 100% renewable energy. So these kinds of things are happening now here.
Great to hear, Gonzalo. Louise, what about you in Essex? Any prospects to bring clean energy cooperatives into the community?
We do have clean energy community groups across Essex, and one of the things we do within the council is kind of nurture and mentor those. And yes, we're very hopeful that we will start one in Jaywick, as I think you saw in the film.
Great. And Mateusz?
As far as I know, there are no local energy communities in Bełchatów, and when it comes to the future visions, there was a vision that Bełchatów becomes a capital of clean energy production. However, it was about the future, no reference to the present, though.
Thank you so much, the three of you, for sharing your insights, and great to see already the concrete impact on the ground following these social experiments. So this is not the end of the webinar. I mean, there were questions already on how to keep up with and being informed about what's happening. So there are a few links in the chat. And I would like now to pass the floor to Valeria to explain a bit more, next steps also in the Shared Green Deal network. Valeria, for yours.
Thank you so much, Christophe, for passing me the mic. So I just wanted to tell you briefly about, so first of all, hello everyone, I'm Valeria Fantini from ALDA, European Association for Local Democracy, and we are a partner in the Shared Green Deal project. And again, I will take these couple of minutes just to let you know that in the upcoming years, we aim as project to create this network of organizations and individuals in order to support, again, Green Deal ambitions, among which there is also energy. So our idea for the network is for it to run events and disseminate tools and resources also to build the capacity of the network members for to implement social innovative practices and also to meet climate change goals. Our idea, again, we are shaping the network in this moment, but our idea is for the people and organizations that are part of it to be part of it in order to be able to connect, of course, with the diverse European stakeholders. As you know, this is a European project, very wide. But also to implement activities on the territory that can have this element of social innovation. And for those of you who are interested in research and maybe are researchers, could be also to get access to relevant insights from social science and humanities research. So why are we sharing this with you right now? Because we are at the very embryonal phase of the creation of this network. And at this moment, we are defining objectives and strategies. And if you are interested, also long-term, maybe to be part of the network afterwards, or just to know more about it, we would like to involve you in the shaping of the, in the brainstorming of the shaping of these objectives. And to do so, we kindly ask you to go to the link that you can see from this QR code and share your feedback. It will take you maximum 10 minutes, but maximum. And yeah, it would be of great help, especially if you want to be involved later on. So thank you.
Okay, then. Many thanks, Valeria, for showing us that there is sort of at least some ways of continuing in the activities that we spoke about just for 1.5 hours, that those partners can be somehow involved even in the future. So I wish to, at the end, I wish to conclude that this social experiment where we really focus on engaging communities, and it means it's about really participation. It's an ongoing sort of ways how to involve people in what is happening around them in the aspect of clean energy topic. I mean, I'm based in Prague. Improvisation is something that Czechs are generally famous for. So I actually really, even I learned that you can even use that like a technique at the workshops. So that's something that I would definitely like to see more using. And then I would say that, you know, one thing is clear energy, it's energy transition. But I think that we hear that it's very strongly connected, not only with the technicalities, with the technical aspects, but very strongly it's related to the social aspects that it brings in the society / in the communities. Because if people have to sort of decide between heating and eating, as the term was used, then the choice is unfortunately pretty clear. I'm actually jealous that the workshop that Louise is going to organize in Essex on reading the energy bills is not also around here, because it really is actually something that I would definitely attend the course. So that's an inspiration for actually repetition, somewhere else. And I wish to sort of conclude with the idea that we've seen happening in Granada, that sitting around good paella, creates the trust kind of environment where you can discuss clean energy, and I wish you a lot of good energy. Many thanks.